I don't even know. We went through something similar anyway, so.
You did. That's right. It was this summer, didn't you? Was it this summer that everything was kind of
we had elections as well, and yeah.
It's crazy. We're all just aghast. We really truly thought this would be the year that a woman would be president here.
But you know what though, I think the quicker we accept, the better. It's happened, and we just pray. I think now whoever's a believer should pray that the best is done for the country, because America is so important to a lot of countries.
Right.
America is like, so we're just praying so hard. We're really, really praying hard. I think the results have been shocking to a lot of people. But yeah.
I know. I was in Europe this summer and got to talking to some of the locals, and they said, "Oh yeah, we follow your politics because what happens to you, who you elect, it definitely affects us." And I'm like, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." So it's an interesting outside looking in, which I think a lot of people in our country don't understand. Actually, the majority of the people in our country don't have passports, so they never leave, and they don't get that perspective, right?
That's right. And I think also with America's economy, depending on stability, depending on the type of leadership, the exports, the imports, all that trade balance. And I know a lot of leaders have often said that depending on who's president, that's who they can negotiate with. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you just hang on for the ride.
Yeah, we just have to buckle up and it's going to be tricky.
Yeah. So this is how we do the podcast. You can see the table. We don't have show notes or anything sitting in front of us. We treat this like a cocktail party. It's just the three of us at a cocktail party. What are you drinking, Darren?
Bourbon and ginger beer.
I've got water. Usually I have a glass of wine, but if you're welcome to get your favorite libation, that's fine too. And then we just treat this as an open conversation. We'll start out with introducing you. We'll ask you what's your why, and the conversation will go from there. We try to keep it to an hour. We do have timers because we can just yak forever. And then we will. You'll know when the natural end to the podcast will start. Darren will wrap it up, and then we'll ask you to just stay on after we stop the recording, just to do some housekeeping things. Sound fair?
Sure.
Excellent. Do you go by Liz or Elizabeth?
Whichever one.
No. Your choice.
Yeah, your choice.
I mean, many call me Elizabeth. My best friend calls me Liz. So honestly.
Awesome. I'll call you Jane.
Actually, that's part of my middle name.
Oh, she scores. All right. So Elizabeth, and it's Solaru?
Yes. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Fabulous. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Let's
Are you
rock and
ready,
roll.
Elizabeth?
Sorry?
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We're keeping her up way too long.
I know. We got to get going.
All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Folks, welcome back to Toasting the Business. Lynn?
I'm in the room.
Hot damn.
I know. No business trips this week for me.
Loving it. I got to tell you what. It's better to have you here than not.
I know.
Okay.
And I'm happier to be here than on
Good.
the road, to tell you the truth.
Excellent. Well,
Fighting the crowd at the Atlanta airport. No bueno.
I flew a couple weeks ago.
No problems?
No problem.
I just get an attitude.
And I got news for you. Even the pilot was like, we may have some turbulence when we land in Colorado. Please expect it. It was like, down, done.
Little bumps.
That was it. And coming back into Atlanta, I didn't, shades down, watching the movie. And all of a sudden I was like, and I'm like, oh, we're back.
That's a nice trip.
Normally Atlanta,
it's
it's
insanity.
something.
Yeah, it's insanity.
So it was dynamite.
Okay, good. Good.
So enough of that.
All right.
Let's talk to Elizabeth, shall we?
Yes, yes.
I've been looking forward to this, and she is kind enough. She's talking to us from England. I'm assuming whereabouts?
From London City.
London City, and it is really freaking late or super early.
Right.
So let's get.
It's almost tomorrow.
It is. So, Elizabeth Solaru.
Yes.
Okay, Elizabeth, you reached out to us, and I was like, Lynn, what do you think? And she said, oh, hell yes. We've got to have her on the show. We're talking about all things high-end and poshy, and I don't know the words. Bougie. She wanted to talk to you, and so here you are. So give us a little background. What is your business?
Right. The business that I'm currently doing, and there's a reason I use the word currently, is I'm a luxury business consultant. So if there are any businesses out there that want to start getting high-end clients or selling to them, I help the businesses find the right type of high-end client for them. So that in a nutshell is what I do. But prior to that, I had done a bunch of other things. I started my life as a scientist. I was a microbiologist. I worked in a lab and all. I worked for the NHS, our national service here in the UK. I worked for the NHS for about 13 years. And then I changed careers, sort of like almost midlife crisis. I did an MBA, changed careers, and I became a headhunter in the city. So I was recruiting chief executives and C-suite executives, having never run a lemonade stand. And these were people who were running multi-million-pound corporations. And 2008, the bottom dropped out of the market, as we all know. And then I changed. I just said to myself, you know what? I'm at an age where if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So I realized my childhood dream of opening a cake shop. And, by some fluke and some means, I ended up making cakes for the ultra high net worth and royal families all over the world. So
it must have been really good cake.
Yeah.
Well, you're a microbiologist, so being a baker honestly doesn't surprise me. I'm just wondering what was in some of those cakes.
Yeah, I know.
Friend or foe? Who am I making this cake for? Certain people are going to have a little in the morning after they eat this cake. So I did that, and then, as you all know, we had another blip in 2020, and but prior to 2020, I was invited to a lot of stages to speak about the luxury market because there's a natural curiosity there. People want to know, oh my God, what's the most expensive cake you've ever done? Or what are the royals like? Or who's the most famous celebrity? People want to know. You made a cake for the royals?
Yes. And there's a funny story about how I got to do that. I made cakes for not just one royal family but royal families all over the world. I've made cakes for them. So 2020 hit, and I started again just talking. We were all at home, we were all bored, so I spoke in a few clubhouse rooms, set up a podcast around luxury businesses, and that was how my latest business was born. And to that end, after a few years, I've now written a book. So sort of like how to. So if anyone wants to set up their own luxury brand, they can, because a lot of business books, in my opinion, are written by professors of luxury and luxury experts who, very good books, beautifully referenced and nicely curated, but they're written from the perspective of really big brands, so the big names that you've heard of, but there's nothing out there from a founder perspective. So, and I said to myself, if somebody like Louis Vuitton, we all know the brand Louis Vuitton, if he were to write a book, what would he write? So he, as a 13-year-old, for example, he walked 300 miles from his village to Paris barefoot. At 13, he arrived when he was 15 in Paris, and he got an apprenticeship. So, and that's how Louis Vuitton was born, because while he was an apprentice, he noticed that the trunks had rounded tops. None of them were made flat, and he thought, why not? So he started making very flat trunks, so they became stackable, and that's how we have the classic trunk that we're all used to today. So I wrote my book from that perspective. If you're starting out like me with £40 and a secondhand mixer, how do you create a luxury brand from that? So that's why I'm where I am now.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I'm assuming. I'm not worthy.
Yeah, I know. All right. You need to go on a higher class. I'm looking at over both your shoulders, and I'm assuming that is your book. I mean, this is product placement at its finest.
It's fabulous. Yeah, it's fabulous.
A cheeky product placement.
Very subtle. Wait, what's to is it to your right on the table? More books?
More books.
She's been signing them all.
Okay, yes, okay.
She has one that she's going to send us after.
Yes.
Maybe.
Overseas.
Right. It cost how many pounds? Almost as much as a royal cake.
Yeah.
How the hell did you cook? I mean, how did you bake it? Okay, besides all the royals, but everybody knows the royals that we're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
And you said funny story. So how did you wind up baking something for that royal family?
Okay, so 2008, I have an idea for a business, and I think, okay, set up my business. And of course, I had one problem: getting clients. So two things happened. So the first thing that happened was my delivery driver at the time, because I was making cakes for immediate family friends, and he was my driver to help me with the deliveries. And he said that. And in the UK, we have something called mini cab offices. So if you want a cab, you phone, you order one, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, by the way, he said, we leaflet. And I'm like, what do you mean you leaflet? He said, they put out flyers in different neighborhoods. And I said to him, oh, do you do posh neighborhoods by any chance? Really expensive ones? And he said, yes. And I said, great, I'm going to give you my cards. And how much would you charge me? He only charged me about 10, 20 pounds. And every so often, maybe a couple of times a month, he would leaflet. So I started getting clients that way. But because I was very, I impressed on him that I only want, clients that can afford to pay, because I had to eat. And
it makes sense.
I do love eating. And then I thought to myself, hang on, why don't I do what I used to do as a headhunter, which was cold calling? Because when I was doing that job, no matter what your targets were, you had to make 100 cold calls, phone calls a week. And I said, I'm going to do the same. So I took the yellow pages. We didn't have, Google was in existence, but there were no online directories or anything. So I took the yellow pages, big book, and I called every wedding planner, every event planner in the book.
Oh, wow. You didn't call Parliament directly and just say, hey, listen, y'all need some cakes and stuff over there. How about some cupcakes, mini muffins, whatever?
I wish I thought of that, actually.
Biscuits for y'all,
So I called, and this afternoon, one day, after I made about 120 calls, this particular day, somebody at the office just, I called, and somebody said, do you make cupcakes? And I'm like, of course we make cupcakes. And I said, and this is what you're trained as a headhunter. You then say something like, I'm going to be in your area in the next 3 days. Would you like me to drop some samples? And she said, yes. So I ran around, got the best packaging I can, and then I did the samples and I dropped them. And on the bus, on the way home, I got a call on my mobile saying, Lady Elizabeth would like to see you. And in my head, I'm like, who is Lady Elizabeth? The sheer panic of, who's Lady Elizabeth? Anyway, I got off the bus, turned back, and it happened to be Lady Elizabeth Anson, who I consider to be the queen, the real queen, the late Queen Elizabeth's cousin. And that was how I went back, she said, your cakes are divine, they tasted beautifully. I want to hire you for a party. and you are going to be one of 3 cake makers at that party. I said, fine. So she gave me a check. It was from a private bank, my first ever private bank check. You hear of these things, but you never think it'll happen to you. Obviously, I was way too poor not to cash it, so I cashed it.
She didn't ask you if you took Bitcoin
or Venmo.
I wish you'd paid me in Bitcoin. I'd have been a millionaire now. And that's how I started working with her. But I think for me, it wasn't even the fact that she gave me such a fantastic opportunity. It was what she did after. After the event, she wrote me a lovely handwritten note saying, your cakes tasted the best, they were amazing, and you have my permission to use my name on all your marketing material.
Wow.
I think that's the kindest thing anyone. I mean,
wow.
So as you can imagine, I splashed it everywhere.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and that's how I got to start working for royal families all over the world.
And influencer marketing.
That's
before it was a thing.
And then you don't even, I mean, you just show up at any restaurant at that point. And they're like, do you have a reservation? And you go, no, but I have this.
I have this card that has.
I have this thank you card. Please, right this way, Elizabeth. Where would you like to sit? Oh, that's fantastic.
Wow. So you parlay literally all your life and business skills in that one moment, right? You used your skills as a headhunter, doing all the cold calls, and probably a little bit of microbiology in there with the baking into that moment. I mean, that's amazing. And I think a lot of our entrepreneurs don't realize that their life experiences are a great place to, start a toolbox of skills that they can leverage to get their business going.
I have one.
You have one?
Yeah, I have one in my toolbox. And
what's that?
I don't know.
Oh, you only have one.
Sure, I think I told
You
you
just dig around in there.
I don't even know what skill it is. I'll let you know when I find that tool.
Okay, all right.
So, oh, wow.
I know. This is so cool. Okay, you said that you were on the bus.
Yes.
And you got this message.
Yes.
And my head went like that. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get off and find a return bus. Like, how long did it take you to return back?
Probably half an hour, because I just over the road, bus stop, bus going the opposite direction. I hadn't gone that, too far, thankfully. So just headed back, and and to be honest with you, because I remember people asking, oh my God, were you intimidated meeting her, etc. I would say no, because, and that's one of the learnings around high-end clients. They're just normal people. They're just normal. And also, she herself as a person is actually quite fascinating, because she's always worked since she was 21. You would think that somebody with a title and related to the Queen, that she lived a life of, luxury and her grapes were peeled or something. But no, she was a hard worker. In fact, she was the very first official event planner in the UK, because she started her business in the 60s. She said she was 21. She had this debutante ball that she was going to be presented at, and she had no money to buy a dress or something. So she started organizing parties to raise money. And because people think that when you have a title or when you are a high-end client, that the money also rolls in, but sometimes the money is in assets that you can't touch. So you have a crumbly molding castle, but no money to fix it. So there's that. For that particular type of luxury client, people need to understand that, there's not piles of money anywhere.
Right.
How did you, well, first of all, it might have taken a little longer to catch the other bus coming back, because she had to mind the gap. But the other part is, you, as Lynn said, you have all these tools, these skills in your toolbox, and you figured out a way to transition into this new career or business because of that. And when was it you were baking cakes and making biscuits and cupcakes that you were like, I'm gonna kick this up a notch. Like this can go to the next level, and here's where it's going to go. How did that all come into play?
That's a fantastic question, because for about 5 years I struggled because I placed my product in the middle market. So when you're in the middle market, it's all about, because you don't want to be at the bottom, obviously, because if you look at a pyramid, you don't want to be at the bottom because, you know, prices are low. But I was thinking, if I can just be in the middle, then I'm making enough money to cover my costs and et cetera, et cetera. But then I quickly realized that that was not sustainable because the margins, because of the type of person I am. I'm the type of person that will actually add money to make the product look even amazing. So I was giving the client way more. So of course, people in the middle were happy because they were getting a bargain. Then I realized this is not sustainable. And I tried every pricing model out there. I talk about pricing in my book as well. So I talk about the pricing, did everything. And then I realized, you know what, Elizabeth, everyone keeps saying your product is a high-end product, so you need to lean into that. So I remember it was around 2013. Again, we had another mini dip. I don't know if anyone remembers. 2013 was quite bad. And I thought to myself, I'm doubling my prices. So I doubled my prices overnight. Then I got rid of about 80% of my clients. And I really was very nervous because I was thinking, that's it now. You've done it. No, your business is ruined. You're going to be one of the 90% whose business is closed after 5 years, according to the statistics. So I was so worried, but it actually worked in my favor because now the pricing was high enough that the high-end clients were thinking her cakes must be something special. If we say ouch when she names her price. So that was when I began to understand pricing, elasticity, rarity, exclusivity. And then I began to play in that world, kind of leaned into and then another thing that I did along with the high pricing, I was able to experiment a bit more because I had that little bit of cushion. I was able to say, okay, if I produce this cake, I know no one's going to buy it, but it's a talking point. If you produce something really outrageous. So I then looked at the luxury, so many luxury brands. So I'll just quickly explain. Many luxury brands operate on 3 levels. At the very bottom, you have your perfumes, your lipsticks, your tiny accessories. And if I save up for a month, I can buy that. I can buy a bottle of perfume.
You'll start seeing all those commercials here now that it's getting towards Christmas.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes.
Market.
So then you have the middle. The middle is where you now have your handbags and your watches and your shoes. And again, I say, if I save up maybe for a year, maybe 2 years, I might be able to afford a handbag. And then you move up another notch, which is the final layer, and that's your couture. So for couture, in my case, I might have to sell a kidney. I might have to sell an arm and a leg, as we say in the UK, to be able to afford couture, which is about 6 figures. But then when you look at the marketing for all 3 levels, it's almost the same because the images for the lower end, beautiful. They pour so much money into that. Same thing, the middle, the high end is where they play around. So that's where you have the fashion shows and the theater and the celebrities are wheeled in your face and there's drama and the fashion show is over in half an hour. But my point is the money from the lower end is what drives the whole engine.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's really, really difficult, as you said, figuring out where to price yourself, because you can price yourself out of the market.
That's right.
But then some people, they price themselves too low and because they don't see the value that they can provide, and you're too humble.
That's important, especially with women. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough, and I'll sell it to you for $1 when it's really worth 10.
Right. It's like asking somebody for, well, can you give me a discount? No. No.
Yeah.
This is my price right now. I'm sorry. And actually, I'm giving you a bargain because you get to deal with all this wonderful sarcasm every day if you come in my office. I mean, I'm fabulous when it comes to that. I mean, people joke around. They'll call and they'll be saying, "Oh my gosh, all that's included." I'm like, "Yeah, and the toilet paper's free." And they just, it's like 1 out of 10 get that joke. So, but it is a difficult thing. And did you test the market, or did you just say, "I'm going, this is my new price point," or did you kind of tease it and do a little testing and say, "I'm going to make 2 of the same cakes. I'm going to price one at this and one at this and offer it to folks and see what the feedback was"? How did you go about that when you?
Yeah, I just did it. I did an overnight thing because because that's another thing with luxury. When they produce products, they don't do, people talk about focus groups and testing and how. No, usually it's the creative director of an atelier or a brand. They had this vision. They submit the mood boards, blah, blah, blah. They get people to make it. They make the samples, see what it looks like in real life. Then have an argument with finance, have an argument with the chief exec. You're spending too much money, blah, 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 blah. And then they produce their collection. I don't think they go around asking clients, "What do you think of this?" The proof of the pudding is when the collection is unveiled in front of the world, and then you have the buyers in the audience, and you have the magazines, you have Anna Wintour with her sunglasses, a nod, a smile, whatever, or a frown. So the point is, they don't. So that was another thing I learned about luxury, that I instinctively felt, I'm not going to do a focus group. You take it or leave it. And I think with that, even if you're non-luxury, I would say trust your own instincts. And also, you can do some testing. I'm not saying don't do testing, but for certain products, I just think you have a take it or leave it attitude. And also, with certain products, you should have a bit of exclusivity around the product. So if you go into some handbag stores, for example, I shall not name the brand, they make you wear gloves to handle the product.
I think I know which brand, but I'm not gonna say it.
Wow. To handle you have to wear gloves
because there's oils on your hands.
Because the oils on your fingers might stain the leather.
Oh my gosh! You better wear the right deodorant than when you have that handbag over your shoulder, so you don't.
And also, what they also do is they don't produce many of those handbags. So the handbags are not. So you can't just walk in and say, "I want to buy X." They put you on a waiting list. You've got to demonstrate to them that you're a great client by your spend. They might assign you a sales assistant, so you have to buy. I wouldn't say you buy your way into getting a handbag, but it helps. And if you are then offered a handbag, you might not be offered the color or design that you really want.
Holy shit.
This is also the handbag that gets its own chair at a restaurant. In restaurants that you and I can never afford to go to, it gets its own chair.
I think about the Aston Martin, right?
Yeah.
Which is one of my, not into all kinds of super sport cars, but I do love an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that when you order one and you get a little side wrap, when you step into the car, it has your name engraved.
That's nice.
On both sides.
That's very nice. Yeah, and for as much as you're going to pay for that.
Yeah, but it's not.
Hey, if you want something on your pickup truck, I can arrange. I can arrange a little thing to put on the threshold of your pickup truck. Darren Flanagan. I might do that for Christmas.
Put some miles on it. Yeah. That's a different song.
Actually, I saw an engraver. There's a young lady that engraves on pickup trucks, actually. I saw it on TikTok. I'll send it to you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I will say, I mean, when you're mentioning it about pricing yourself in a market and exclusivity, I think about all I can do is go to Apple versus PC.
Yeah.
There's only an Apple. There's only the iOS operating system. PCs, it's out there, but I know, but they are all different brands. They carry that other operating system. But Steve Jobs was like, this is our computer.
Like
we
we're
have
not
our operating system, and we're priced 2 to 3 times as high. And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
So I get that on that level, not on a handbag level.
Well, yeah, it's a handbag, but she's doing it on a
it.
cake level. At the time, she was doing it on a cake
I
level.
bet some of those things, maybe it was like, do not eat the glittery stuff. Those are real freaking diamond chips. I don't know. I mean, how do you make a cake so high end that it's like, what? I really want to know. What do you do? Because most of the time, even what is it, Great British Bake Off or something? But you see all these cake bakers, and how much fondant can you put on a cake? But what do you do to, like, the strawberries came from exclusive, like this upper region in the Alps?
What are exclusive clients looking for? Obviously, it's customer service. Obviously, it's discretion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. You know, they don't want you, again, a confidentiality, lots of non-disclosure agreements are signed. And sometimes you may even have to turn off your phone, especially for the geolocation, because to these people, security threats are real. These are real for them. And for example, I remember going to a particular hotel, and they were showing me the presidential suite. And the first thing I asked is, are the windows bomb-proof? Because of the kind of clients that I deal with. So at a certain level, it's not just the fact that it's a cake. It's also, it's a bit like saying, oh, you know, a handbag is just a bit of leather. So yes, there's a craftsmanship, but there's also something about their kind of events that the cake has got to be as elevated as the surroundings. And it's an understanding of that. So there's something around design. Yes, and I get your point. Eggs, butter, flour, sugar, milk, the same everywhere. However, I, for example, offer a service where I will do custom flavors. So if you give me childhood favorites like bubble gum, or I remember a couple, they got married, they had a Japanese themed wedding because they met and fell in love in Japan, although they're not Japanese. So I did a wasabi and white chocolate cake with plum jam. So that's the sort of creativity that they look for, that sort of custom. So to me, for example, when I do a chocolate cake, I can have about 20 different flavors of chocolate cake. And I when I look at cocoa powder, even at a glance, not all cocoa powders are the same. Is it Dutch processed? Is it this? Is it that? So it's about going deeper into the details and the provenance, and looking at, okay, and funnily enough, sometimes with ingredients, just because they've got a fancy label doesn't mean they're the best. Right. I do my taste test and I realize actually that brand is not as fancy, but it's actually better and it produces better results. So it's things like that that go into a product that makes it luxury. And I've literally just given you another thing that makes it luxury, which is the storytelling. So storytelling around a product also makes it luxury.
And that is one of the things that I did when I was had my own business as a content provider or content generator. Is if there's a story that you tell about your brand that resonates with your core customer group, your target market, and that is the story you stick with, and that is the story you develop and expand on, right?
You can spin a good yarn.
I can try. I
like that. There, shipping companies, and they do that, and it's like, and it might be some goofy ass story though. No, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, like, they might start with here's how our company was founded. And then they use that.
There's a line.
There's a line of marketing that they use over time, and it's consistent, but it evolves. And then they have their other branding that goes along. Right. And those are the fun companies to follow along with. So what the hell am I telling you? You're the expert. I'm not. I'm just an idiot over here.
So let's go from cakes to what you do now as a Luxpreneur. You said you consult with other companies, brands that want to get into the luxury market. What type of things are people trying to sell into the luxury market? What are some of the most unusual things that you've encountered during your consulting?
There was one brand, it was cybersecurity. So they're trying to sell cybersecurity to the luxury market, but they had a specific market. They targeted jewelry brands because jewelry is fantastic, very small-ish, and very expensive. So if somebody hacks into such a website or steals customer details, etc., we're talking catastrophe. So again, that is very unusual to find, cybersecurity in that space. And so again, it's as much products as it is services.
Sure.
It could be, for example, even a family office who maybe there was one, they've had lots of clients in the past, but they were leeching clients. So had to find out why are you losing clients and why. Because if you're losing clients, it means they don't trust you. So what's going on? What's happening? Again, it was about tightening the security controls, and it was also about them proving that they are high trust worth, because it's about trust. So I've done unusual things, and that's why I put a lot of the experience in a book. So with the book, for example, I start with the person. So if you are a luxury brand owner, what is your archetype? Who are you? Because luxury clients want to trust you. So they go, and who are you? And if you don't know who you are as an archetype or as a person, you're going to be another person trying to get money off them to them.
Right.
So that's why with me, I even typed to myself and I'm like, okay, how do I come out? And I came out as two different archetypes. I'm an artisan. So that means I focus on craftsmanship. I make sure the quality is there. And I'm also a visionary. So that means I see into the future, blah, blah, blah. But that's the good side. The bad side is that as an artist, I will spend all the money just creating products and not worrying about margins and selling and, because I just want to be in my own world. And then as a visionary, I needed to be grounded in the present. So that bill's not, it's not going to pay itself. What are the projections for the, so things like, so I needed like a business strategist, a good financial person, and a good operations person around me. So that's part one of the book. So knowing who you are, knowing your luxury mindset. And then part two, I talk about the 5 pillars of a luxury business, of which storytelling is one. And you've got things like perception. So how do you even create the image? How do you get people to look at you as a luxury brand? So I give practical things that people can do, even things like photography. We take for granted, because I say to people, look at the imagery of luxury brands and look at the consistency and look at the quality. And these are things that you can actually replicate if you find the right photographer and you are the right brand for them. There's got to be a fit. And then the final part of my book, I talk about the different types of luxury clients, which is where many people that I consult for make the mistake, because they think, oh, we just want clients with money. But you need to niche down and say, this is the type of client I want. And I use the example a lot of King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne.
I'll take Ozzy.
I'll take Ozzy, yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne, right.
Actually, I'll take Ozzy's wife instead. Sharon is a much better influence. She's the whole business.
She is.
Runs the whole freaking business. Yeah. She's the smart one.
Yeah. Okay, so
Anyway.
Osborne,
Ozzy Osbourne and King Charles. Now, according to marketing demographics, both white male, born within a month of each other, they've both been divorced twice, and they both live in castles.
They both have one foot in the grave.
Exactly. And a little known fact is that they're actually friends. When Ozzy was in an accident, King Charles actually sent him a note and a gift and blah, blah, blah. But my point is, psychologically, they are completely different.
Yeah.
And therefore, you sell to them differently. And when you read the book, you can see what archetypes they are and what motivates them. And that is a point of, that's where I went in. A bit of research, my scientific background came in a little bit, and I did the research and I found out the different types, and so people know who they are, where you can find them, how to engage them, what would piss them off, what would make them buy from you, etc.
So which one with your business, and it's, what is it, Luxury Business Emporium, is that?
Yes, that's
the name of your company.
Yeah, that's the name of my company.
So when you're targeting these clients and you have an Ozzy Osbourne and a Prince Charles, which one do you
King Charles,
King
by
Charles.
the way.
Oh,
King,
he's king now.
yeah,
That's right. I forgot.
King.
I forgot. I think a lot of people still call him. Just saying.
We got our own problems over here with
Anyway,
our leadership.
But which one do you prefer to work with? Would you rather work with an Ozzy Osbourne or a King Charles?
Oh, that is a fantastic question. And I tell you why, because Ozzy Osbourne would be the innovator, trendsetter, because he would want something different. And innovation is great for my business. So as an artisan, I'm like, okay, that's amazing. But the problem is innovators they're frustrating to work with because they're always changing their minds. They're always, and why don't we add this? And so you need to create boundaries and tell them when to stop. So as a client, for ideas, Ozzy would be amazing, but frustrating when it comes to leaving you alone to execute. King Charles, on the other hand, once that type of client, once they trust you, that's it, you're in. It's a gentleman's agreement. They're comfortable with whatever you produce, as long as it's quality and as long as they like it. So they'll leave you the heck alone. The only problem with that type of client is that they have a lot of gatekeepers. So it's somebody between you and them. So things might get lost in translation. So you're not just managing King Charles's expectations, you're managing the person in between who wants to show that they are the gatekeeper. And another thing with that type of client is getting paid. Because again, they're not paying you directly. The middle person is the one paying you. So you will be paid according to the whims of the gatekeeper. Right. So in a nutshell, I've described
that's a lot. Yeah.
Pros and cons of dealing with both.
Okay. That's a lot to consider. Have you ever had to call one of your luxury clients and go, you haven't paid me yet?
Absolutely. I have no shame when it comes to because the reason being, and sometimes, and I know it sounds weird, sometimes it's even a test, it's because these are people who can afford anything in the world. Withholding payment, sometimes it's genuine, they've forgotten, to be honest, because events over, let's move on. Or they might not know that the middle person hasn't paid you again. Right. So I will just say, I'll be very, I'd appreciate it if we can settle this, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Okay. Send a car around. So would you rather work with Posh Spice or Beckham? You don't have to answer that.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I think to be fair, both of them they're not too dissimilar as people think. I typed both of them. There's an archetype for both of them actually, and they're actually the same archetype, but with a little caveat. Because they're very similar in how they are in life.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. My brain's going 100 miles an hour right now.
Slow down.
Have you ever had to tell a potential client that you're consulting with, your product is not luxury? I don't
just call it a steaming piece of turd.
To poo-poo. Have you ever had to like kind of gently break it to somebody that you're kind of maybe barking up the wrong tree and you need to go over to this type of client?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, without a shadow, of course. I mean, because I would be doing them a disservice if we let them into the market and because what sometimes I see two types of clients. I see the first one who they're underpricing actually. So the first thing I say is triple your prices, and they want to faint, and I'm like, no, because your competitors in the market, blah blah blah, and also the value you're given is blah 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 blah. So in light of that, you can justify your prices. But there are people, and I say to them, you've got to have a good product. And unfortunately, a lot of products are mediocre. And people sometimes think, oh, we're the only ones doing it in our market. We have no competition. And then I show them 10 others doing exactly the same thing. And they go, no. But the difference is I'm like, as a client, I buy based on what I see. I don't have to be as knowledgeable about the product as you. All I know is I love your brand, love the label. This is your product. That's all you need to concern yourself with, because it goes back to when I was a headhunter, and I used to run these job hunting sessions for chief executives, and I would ask the basic question: what is the job of a CV? And then they overcomplicate it. Your CV is this. I'm like, no. One job. The job of the CV is to get you an interview. The job of the interview is to get you the job. So don't overcomplicate it. So let's start from basics. You've got to have a good product. It doesn't have to be the best. And people get it wrong. It doesn't, but it's got to be good. Because if it's good and then you build an incredible brand story around it, that is enough to make it into the luxury arena. But if it's absolutely perfect, but nobody's heard of it, no one's going to buy it. Or if it's perfect and it's really underpriced, people are not going to think it's perfect.
So,
it's a fine line with pricing and the perception of value.
Well, funny story. One of my members here the other day, they're like, trying to book the meeting room. But for some reason it says it's $500 an hour for us. And I was like, okay, let me tweak it, because you get, they have so many hours for free. And I'm like, I just need to go in and tweak it. Somehow the system, and I'm pretty sure when I made some changes with pricing, because I had to adjust some pricing, that I went from like $35 to $50 an hour.
Oh,
maybe I fat-fingered it. Maybe that's why I haven't had as many people
renting
the meeting room at
$500
an hour.
Okay.
Just walk in and it's like, yes, we have representatives in here who will run the meeting for you. They already know what it's all about. And the masseuses are coming in.
And we have a smart whiteboard and video connection.
Not this.
It's
a $50 an hour meeting room at $500. So I fixed it yesterday. I'm like, oh, son of a punk. But anyway, what do you find out there, Elizabeth, that is people keep coming to you and it's like the market is so saturated with that product. I don't care if it's low, middle, or high priced. No, that's it. There's too much of this, either service or product. What do you see out there these days?
I don't, again, this is so weird because I don't think, and this is the thing about luxury, I don't think there is an oversaturation problem. I think there's an under differentiation problem.
Okay.
Because when you go to the supermarket, you can find about 20 different brands of ketchup, for example, or detergent or peanut butter. But for some weird reason, you have your favorite that you will go and buy. So the problem sometimes with luxury is that all the products are similar. They're the same. There's nothing distinct about them. And this is actually an advantage for somebody starting out. You haven't got a heritage problem. You haven't got a brand conformity problem. You haven't got such a reputation in the market that if you don't produce your products in a particular way, people are thinking you've gone mad. So this is what I say to people who are setting up new businesses, because some luxury clients, they are looking for the new. They want the new, what's new, what's happening, and who can I discover? Because we love stories of, that person was discovered by XYZ. So for example, there's a brand, Schiaparelli, with Daniel Rosen. Oh, I hope I've got his name right. He was a designer, he was a creative director for Tom Brown for many, many years. And then he left the job. He was sleeping on his friend's sofa. And then he got a tap on the shoulder to be the creative director for Schiaparelli. And he literally he's been doing the most incredible thing. It was like a match made in heaven. And my point is, he wasn't a massive big name designer that people expected the brand to hire. He was just yes, he had done well. He was successful, but he wasn't a big name. He was relatively unknown to people outside of that kind of world. But now everybody wants, he's like on everyone's lips. So my point is, there is something there about the small brands in luxury, because the big brands are a particular fraction of it. But if you are talented and you're doing what you're doing incredibly well, you will get noticed. I, for example, got noticed by the people behind the Masterful 100. So it's the top 100 luxury brands in the world. And then got this email saying you've been on, you're on the list. And I thought it was one of these scam emails. So I said, I'm not clicking on that link. So, I quickly deleted it thinking, let me put it in the spam folder but it was real. So you never know who's watching is what I'm trying to say. But it's all about differentiating yourself and taking that risk early on in the business when nobody knows who you are.
That's good to know. Do you think that, do you find it on the luxury brand level that influencers are actually helpful at times? Yes, you do. You're shaking your head like, yeah, of course. So you're over there, you're like, well, I have my own separate Rolodex of influencers. Of course
she does, because the lady Elizabeth asked,
right, but that's not what I mean. Not somebody who provides influencers like out on social media and stuff like that. Like, oh my goodness, you have this necklace. We need to get this over to so-and-so to wear it and talk about it and et cetera, et cetera. That type of influencer. Does it travel up to the luxury brands for stuff like that as well?
That's another amazing question. I would say yes and no. Yes, if you get the right influencer. So I'll give you an example. There's a amazing brand called Loro Piana, and they did some work with an influencer on TikTok. And people, again, it was a pairing that surprised many people, because you wouldn't expect a really highfalutin brand like Loro Piana to be on TikTok. But this particular influencer is actually followed by presidents and chief executives, etc. And he actually, he created a character that makes fun of people that wear Loro Piana, oddly enough. But they did a collaboration and designed shoes and, a whole range of stuff. and it's sold out within hours. And yet you do have other brands that would take random, because I think the latest thing was taking random K-pop, Korean pop stars, K-pop stuff, random influencers who have a massive following. However, that doesn't translate into business for the brand. Right. All it does is, you've got to have a bunch of influencers wearing the clothes and posing at fashion shows or whatever, but that doesn't really translate. So it depends on who you pick. It depends on what both of you get out of it. And it depends on the quality of the collaboration. But certainly the influencer thing, it travels up. So another brand recently, what they did, which I thought was very clever, was to feature their best client, who is a doctor, a very serious lady, but she loves couture. And she got to walk the catwalk. And that's cool. I just thought that was great, because this is a client. This is a real life client in your couture show. So that for me is a kind of influencer marketing that I think brands should lean into a bit more.
That's interesting. It's an interesting twist on influencer marketing. Yeah.
I'm thinking about Pharrell and his clothing line. Well, he works in collaboration. It's like Pharrell probably just is his own.
Right. Yeah, he is.
So why not? Yeah, why not? That's very interesting. He's people kind of know.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah. It's sad. Yeah.
So what do you want to share with us in these last? We're coming down to the end, and you are probably running out of gas. You're probably like, it is bedtime. I want to get my pee. Yeah. So what? Give us I don't know. You choose the last thing that you want to tell us about. Whether it's, go from there.
I would just say, first of all, thank you so much for this. This has been an incredible conversation, very, very enjoyable. And I've absolutely had a great time being here. And also just to say to people, the best luxuries in life are not things you buy. They're not things they're just things that occur naturally. For me, the older I get, the best luxury for me is health. As long as I'm in great health, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, even, I'm happy. I'm happy. So, anybody, and I mean anybody, can set up a luxury brand. You just need to know how. And once you know the principles, once you know how, anything can be luxury, even water.
I would agree. I would agree with you with the water.
Just listening this book I'm listening to. She's like, "Oh, you want a bottle of Evian?" She goes, Evian spelled backwards is naive.
Oh, is it really?
I'm like, oh my goodness. Perfect.
Yeah.
So how do you spin it? How do you market it?
Yeah.
But thank you so much for that. Elizabeth, if we want to buy your book, or how do people get in touch with you to consult with their luxury brands? Give us the gist here.
My book is available on Amazon. So again, everyone, please go on Amazon, please buy the book. It's called The Luxpreneur: How to Start and Build a Successful Luxury Brand. And as for me, I'm on LinkedIn. It's my preferred social media now. And I love it there. And every day I try to write something about luxury that people can apply to their own personal businesses, whether small, whether big. Today, being the day it is, I didn't really make a post. I just said the word of the day is, I believe it's recrudescence. And recrudescence is something that occurs after a brief respite, it comes back again. So that was the word of the day for me today, in light of what's happened.
Yeah, that sums it up. Yeah,
great. Very much.
That's awesome. Well, we'll reach out to you on LinkedIn. Is it Elizabeth Solaru?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Sometimes people go by their maiden name or other handles on LinkedIn. So
you handle all of our LinkedIn stuff, so we're good with that. You're doing such an awesome job.
Yeah.
So let me tell you. So, Elizabeth, thank you for being on the show today, folks. if you want to know more about this. And if you're driving, don't try to type it into your phone. Just go to our website, what the hell is it? Oh, Toasting the Business. I don't know. Podcast at toastingthebusiness.com. And we will have it in the show notes. Or if you're downloading it for your phone to listen to the podcast episode, all of Elizabeth's contact information will be in the show notes.
That's right. Darn tootin'.
Yep.
Darn
tootin'.
I've been living in Georgia too.
You ready to blow this popsicle stand? All right, folks.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Share this with somebody who I'm sure wants to know about luxury brands.
It's fascinating.
And what the hell this super expensive handbag is.
I will tell you.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all have a great week. Bye.
It's Hermes.
Hermes. Well, now it's on the Hermes.
Hermes, yeah.
H-E-R.
I gotta go look it up. Of course you would know because you got.
Wow, that bag's.
I gotta scoot really quick. I'll be back, but if you're
okay,
still
yeah,
with Elizabeth, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll be back in just a.
Okay, I know you got to do your thing. Yeah, he had too much whatever to drink. Yeah, I known about that situation with that particular bag, and I'm like, ooh, too rich for my blood. So I'll never have one.
And you do know that 3 women are suing them, right?
I had heard like something like a discrimination kind of situation. Is that?
Yeah, that, the unlawful practices of Hermes making people buy a bunch of stuff before they get to buy the handbag.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that is that is an unlawful practice or something. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and is Ferrari the other one that banned Justin Bieber from buying any more cars? Because I think if my memory serves me correctly, he bought one of the cars and he either wrecked it or painted it a different color that wasn't typical of Ferrari, and they're like, no more. You don't get this.
Wow.
Either.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they say that Justin Bieber he overspends, he just buys stuff.
Okay.
And he's actually literally burned through his money. So he had to sell his back catalog.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I heard. I remember reading it somewhere. So yeah.
That's really kind of sad. Wow. So do you have any meetings coming up, new clients or anything coming up here in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually I've literally just come back from Turkey because there was a global marketing conference and I was invited to speak about luxury brands. Wow. and marketing and that sort of thing. So I do a bit of traveling, speaking abroad. And and occasionally I do pick up the odd client as well. But usually they are brands that want to get into the luxury market, or sometimes even business schools, because a lot of business schools are now seeing students who want to set up their own businesses as opposed to working for the big 4 consulting firms. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I get calls from a lot of business schools as well.
Wow. That's really fun. Now, to pass time, are you making cakes for yourself?
No, funnily enough, I never make cakes myself, but I do still have the odd client. If they're a particular type of client, maybe they want me to go abroad, or they're coming to the UK and they've got a big bash, I still make cakes. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. I've got my team still. Yeah. That's great. I know, that's just so great. You're like, oh, I'm going to go back to what I used to do, which is fantastic. Yeah. Do you have any questions for us? I mean, I get the only curious thing on my mind is why toasting to business? Why that name? So we had another podcast that was started by a different partner that was called Beer and Business. And it was literally, before I became co-host, I would be on that podcast once in a while, and it was literally like beer on the table, talking business. It was very irreverent.
ran on for like 2 hours long, sometimes longer. It was just,
and we lost clients.
And
We
we
lost potential guests because they thought it was a podcast about beer, or they had to drink beer on the podcast. So we're like, we gotta do something to broaden this. a little bit,
right. So we're like, we want to kind of keep the same format, which is very casual. And we just figured let's call it Toasting to Business. And, you know, our goal is to educate entrepreneurs or young people who want to be an entrepreneur, or somebody who's sitting in the corporate office saying, I'm on the fence, I want to branch out and become a business owner. And my gosh, how many people have we interviewed? We've more than 200 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah. So fascinating. The people we talk to, a guy that just installs pool liners. That's all his business is pool liners.
Oh, wow.
And he was a police officer, and he was installing pool liners on the side in the summer, and realized he was making more money doing that than as a police officer. Who else?
We had the guy who just works with rigs, tractor trailers, and does repairs for tractor trailers, and shows up. He had the national contract that he got
for the forest
the forest fighters.
Yeah.
Repairs the fire engines and stuff on site during the forest fires and stuff like
So
that.
we have found some very niche entrepreneurs, which is fascinating, because it's just not your, you know, everyday like, oh, I sell insurance, or nothing wrong with that, or I'm a real estate agent. Like these people have
pizza business,
right, but these people have some sort of life experience that they've taken that little bit and they've turned it into, you know, something really big. So a lot of laughs we've had over, you know, the last couple of years.
Thanks, I'm glad you like my jokes.
Learned a lot along the way. But yeah, that's why we call it Toasting to Business. We're just like, hey, let's have fun and celebrate the small business owners like yourself. Yeah.
Wow, I love that, because I looked at the branding and I thought that's really, because to me, well, maybe because I'm based in the UK, and you know, we have a reputation for drink and everything. So in fact, the fact that there's even drink, it makes it even more appealing to us. Because as you know, we got pubs in every corner. So
right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I've got my own speakeasy right here in the office, but what could I say?
Exactly. So that's why I kind of thought, oh, that looks really nice. So
Thank you. Yeah.
A lot of iterations.
A lot of iterations. Boy, it looked like a Frankenstein at one point, but we got it cleaned up and got a logo. So we were happy with it.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Just so you know, this will go out. Monday is the next one. The following Monday.
2 weeks.
So what was yesterday? So the 11th, and then 2 weeks. So
2 weeks.
18th or so. Monday the 18th, whatever.
That is the 18th.
The episode will release, and then the video will follow behind that on YouTube. I'm not so good at that. I kind of do those in batches, and then I space them out so they hit when they do. But you'll be on both.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Elizabeth, thank you again.
Yes.
Thank you.
You can go to sleep now. You're not too wound up.
You know, we're still, I think some of us are still dissecting the results. We're still, I don't know. I'll just be chatting with my American friends.
I want to go crack open a bottle of wine and just drown my sorrows, but I've sworn off drinking for a couple of weeks.
The one thing that Linda posted, there was a post out there that said Republican Party, Democratic Party, margarita party. That's a good way to go.
It's the only way to manage it. So have a great night, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.